I'm Maria Menounos, and you're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
What's up, guys? Hello. Welcome in. If you are watching or listening, then you know this is the All Rise After Show here at AfterBuzz TV. We're talking Season 1, Episode 15, titled Prelude to a Fish. But before we get into it, I'm your host, Alexis Brown. And with me, I have my co-host. We have Miss Princess. Hello. And we have Zuri.
Hi, everyone.
Yes, we're so excited to be here and talk about this episode. We had a lot of stuff going on. Lola is doing some digging into Judge Benner. Mark and Amy take it to the next level. Emily and Luke got their own stuff going on. And we just have a lot of court cases and all that fun stuff, too, as well. But before we get into all of the specifics, ladies, what did you think of tonight's episode?
I cannot wait to talk about Limley because I was a little disappointed in Luke.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to hear you guys' thoughts on that situation.
Yes.
I feel like there was a lot going on, but not a lot going on at the same time. Like, I feel like every situation had so many details, but it wasn't big, dramatic movements like we've seen in the earlier past episodes.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. That's like a perfect way of wrapping it up because I feel the same way. A lot of stuff was thrown at us, but I still kind of feel like I don't really know what happened or what was going on, or things were just completely just wrapped up so quickly. And that's how we always feel about this show, I feel. They kind of just throw stuff at us and then they're like, all right, here it is, boom.
Yes.
And I feel a way that we didn't see what Lola got for Valentine's Day.
It was so anticlimactic. I was like, we built up to not see what's inside the box.
Right. It was like you have to be in a quiet place to open it, and they, like you said, talked about it the whole episode and we never even saw what it was. So.
I have so many thoughts about Lola's relationship with her husband. Something seems really off to me. Especially it seemed like she had a little moment with the guy that Judge Benner is working with. So I'm kind of like, I don't know what's happening. I just, I have so many thoughts about their relationship.
She also only sent her husband flowers. Like,
that's true.
I would expect a little more, or like, even if they would have said, I can't wait to see you this weekend, because they talked about buying flights to meet in like Illinois or someplace. Like, I needed a little bit more for a married couple who obviously both make over 6 figures for Valentine's Day.
Let's talk about that. So it is Valentine's Day, and like you mentioned, she sent him flowers. I actually, when I was watching it, thinking to myself, and don't attack me, but are we supposed to get guys gifts for Valentine's Day? I always just assumed that the women get gifts on Valentine's Day, and that sounds so terrible, and that's probably why I'm single, but just the fact that she was sending him anything, I was like, oh, that's sweet. And then Mark was like, I can't believe you sent him last minute flowers, and I was thinking, do guys even want flowers? Like, I was like, I thought this was a female holiday.
I don't know if guys want flowers, but I'm definitely, like, I was raised in a household where my parents got each other gifts, but then they also got me and my brother gifts too.
Featuring
So that's really cool. But
interviews.
I don't know. I think the thing that actually threw it off even more for me was just the fact that when she opened her little red box, she didn't even call him. So it was kind of like you sent him the last minute flowers, and then when you opened the big gift that he sent you, you were like, oh, that's so funny, that's so cute and so thoughtful. Now let me go ahead and make this phone call that I need to make for work.
Yeah, that was a weird transition. You were so right about that, because I thought she was picking up the phone to call him, to be like, oh, thank you. And then that's when they were going to reveal to us what the gift was. But that's when she called the attorney lady, and I was like, that has nothing to do with this Valentine's Day or this gift or anything.
I think it was a vibrator.
Why do you think it was a vibrator?
Because we didn't get to see what it was. She laughed in like a manner that, I guess it was like an inside joke kind of thing or something that they would own. Like, she wasn't shocked really, and he's not there for long periods of time. So I'm like, why wouldn't they show us what it was?
I didn't even think about that. I did think that it was an inside thing, but I thought maybe it was from something from their past, or like, I don't know, some sort of sentimental item.
Yeah.
That was funny, but I didn't think about that. My mind did not go there.
I mean, hey, if you're long distance, that's a good gift to give. Right. Whew, child. I didn't even think about that.
Again, I have so many thoughts about their relationship.
Oh,
but anyway.
my gosh. Well, anywho, so Lola, for some reason, Judge Benner and her campaign person, manager, whatever, is like, we want your help with our campaign. We want you to dig into Judge Benner. And I was kind of confused. I was like, why do they have Lola doing this, and what are they doing this for? Why do you think she had Lola do that, and for what reason?
I think it was interesting at the end. It seemed like Judge Benner knew that she was going to find something, and she left the door open on purpose, like, oh, if you need to talk to me about anything, let me know. I just kind of, when I interpreted that scene, I thought, oh, maybe she wants Lola to find certain things. So that was kind of my instinct, is, well, maybe she wants Lola to go into this and find all these questionable things about her past. So, I mean, maybe she wants Lola to know who she really is, or maybe she wants Lola's input on these situations. I don't know, but I do think it's intentional.
What do you think?
Yeah, I think Mark said lawyers don't go into things without already knowing the answers. So I feel like Judge Benner knew Lola would do a good job. But Judge Benner also called Lola her dowsing rod, and that makes me think that Lola is seen as a disposable object. Like, why did you just call me a rod? I'm a whole judge.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
It was just like, for me, like, she's a freaking judge. She has so many things she could be doing, so many cases and real work to be doing, and you have her looking up your past. Like, for what reason? How is this benefiting anybody, and why a judge at all reasons? Like, her assistant, I mean, she was doing majority of the work anyway. She was giving it to Sharon. But why are you asking a judge to do that for you?
That's why I think it's really intentional. I think
like
that
a test.
Kind of. Part of me wondered if it's some sort of test, and maybe she has another role that she actually wants Lola to take on. But this is let me see how you handle this, like a test, like you said, before she takes on that role. But I do think that it's intentional. I think she has some sort of scheme. It could be good, it could be bad, but there's something going on.
The only thing I can think is maybe, because, I would consider Lola someone of integrity. She usually tries to go by doing the right thing. So maybe Judge Benner wants to see how somebody like Lola would perceive her past. But still, like, why does that matter?
She could also be testing Lola's integrity. Like, are you willing to bend the rules? Are you a politician? So it could be another test of Lola's integrity.
Well, I mean, Judge Benner in general is just really different. Like, in her energy, it's just like, what do you have to say? What's up your sleeve? So I don't trust Judge Benner as far as I can see her, and I'm looking at the screen, so that's not very far. But I don't think that she's doing this for Lola's benefit.
Yeah.
Of course not.
So in Lola's digging, she found out that Judge Benner may have been behind either, like, helping a company screw over a bunch of employees or hiding evidence for that company. Judge Lasky kind of made it seem like he either knew that she did or thinks that she did. But what do you all think, just based off what we've gotten so far and what you know of Judge Benner so far?
I wouldn't be surprised if there's something between Judge Benner and Lasky. Like, why is he so hell-bent on just ingraining in Lola that Judge Benner is not who she thinks she is? And I don't think it's, again, like I think we talked about on the show, no one really does things for someone else's benefit. Like, it's all, most people are for self. So
yeah.
I think that'll come out in episodes to come.
Yeah.
But
I agree. Yeah, I just agree with you. I mean, it's interesting. I'm starting to like Judge Lasky a little bit more. And there's also just part of me that tends to distrust politicians. So it could just be that what he's saying lines up with what I believe anyway.
Yeah.
But I think we all can agree, and we all have agreed, that Judge Benner is not who she portrays herself to be, and she's shown that in subtle ways. So it'll be interesting to see in future episodes how all of this pans out. It'll be interesting to see if maybe Lasky and Benner worked on something and went their separate ways after that. I don't know. I'm curious to see what's going to happen.
Right. Why do you think Lola didn't mention it to her, and do you think that she will eventually ask her about it? And another one is, do you think that she should ask her about it? That's like a triple question.
I think Lola will mention it. I think she didn't mention it because she wants to make sure that she doesn't come to her with something incomplete. And the last one was, why should she mention it? I think she should mention it because, I mean, you did all this work, one. And two, there's a reason that she was chosen for this. So Judge Benner's her boss. And I think as much as we may feel type of way about our bosses, they still have to make the recommendations, or, you know, they pull all the strings. So it's in Lola's best interest to say that.
Yeah.
I think practically speaking too, I think Lola should talk to her, because I think Lola needs to see what type of person she is and how she's going to respond to this information. Of course, I don't think she brought it to her as well because she doesn't have all of the facts. And even Mark brought up the fact that you need to have evidence before you make a decision. But I do think that she should talk to her, because we need to gauge Judge Benner's response to the information.
And it could possibly ease her own mind, because now she's making up all these, not making up, but like coming up with all these conclusions in her head, and she doesn't even know the truth. So it could, you know, it seems like she's starting to think less of her now that she's starting to find out more information. It could not even be anything. So I think in her asking, that would also ease her and give her peace of mind. So
one way or the other.
We'll see. Before we get into our next topic, Zuri, do you have a message for our viewers?
I do. Hey, guys, I just want to say thank you for making us all the ESPN of TV Talk. We appreciate you guys watching us every single Monday night. If you're watching us on YouTube, be sure to give us a thumbs up and leave a comment in the comment section. If you're listening to us on iTunes, leave 5-star ratings. And yeah, I know these ladies are also on great after shows, as well as doing great things outside of AfterBuzz. So be sure to follow them and keep up with what they're doing.
Whoop, whoop. Yes. And if you're watching live, make sure you get into the live chat, because we are looking at it. We have some people in there. I'm going to just point out some comments that I think are funny. Mo Giant said, "I don't want flowers. I want Giants tickets."
Same, actually.
ER's grandpa said, "Ooh, Zuri, you are hitting it tonight. Disposable object. I don't trust Judge B either." Yep. And then Mo also said, "What man would get their wife a sex toy?" What man wouldn't get their wife a sex toy?
I mean, you care
a good
about
man,
her, right?
Yeah.
Be interesting. One of these days, we got to get a guy up here just to get his thoughts
I know,
on that.
it's
on that
all
theory.
girls up here. Yeah. I would think a good man would, but you know, that's a whole other topic. All right, so let's talk about Mark. He had a lot going on this episode, but one of the biggest things is, you know, now he's reeling after his, you know, his little nasty moment with Amy. And they're acting super awkward, but in some way they end up, you know, going against each other in court. And a court aside, they actually had a moment after the battle ended where they decide that they, well, at least to me, decide that they want to be together. Is that what you all kind of got from it? That they're deciding they're going to actually be in a relationship?
Yeah, she's playing a different kind of like cat and mouse game. Like I probably wouldn't tell a guy that I was interested in, like I'm going on a date. So maybe my type would be like, okay, well, bye. And then I feel like it was something else, like in the office conversation that she mentioned. Oh, I'm available for now. Like, okay.
Yeah.
Like Mark is doing a good job, but maybe he's a different type of guy.
But she knows Mark. I mean, she's literally his competitor. So I think she knows the best way to
reel him in.
Exactly. Which I think is actually dangerous. So I'm on another after show, and in that after show, two lawyers are dating and they're on opposing sides as well, and it gets really messy. And so in this situation, I like Mark and Amy, but I'm concerned that it could get messy as they go against each other in court. And Amy seems like she's ruthless. So that's my only concern with this relationship is how long is it going to last?
That's my concern with all the relationships on these shows, because everybody's besties, everybody's dating, everybody used to date or has some sort of past, and it's like, are y'all really thinking with actual like ethical mindsets, or is it all about your friendships and who you're screwing at the time?
Yeah, there's no longevity in mind.
Yeah.
No. Or the ethical part too. Especially like I said on the other show, it was just really like, you guys are crossing boundaries, because I don't think your clients would like this.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, it's just a sticky situation. But they are cute.
They are cute.
really
I
cute.
like them.
Yeah, I mean, he's just got out of a relationship, though. So it's like, okay, Mark, you just going to keep bouncing from girl to girl?
He always wanted Amy, though.
That's
We
true.
knew that early on.
That's true.
Yeah, it was bound to happen.
Yep. All right. So in the court case that they actually faced against each other, he's representing someone who's disabled and saying that a guy named Barney took his insurance money. The guy named Barney is like, you know the truth. Why are you playing with me? Why you have all of this going on? And it ends up being revealed that he was, took the money for him, was actually trying to help him. And the guy was actually just being disloyal. He was saying that they weren't friends and blah, blah, blah. Do you think that he really genuinely felt like they weren't friends because in his mind, he didn't consider him a friend? Or do you think he was lying for the sake of protecting himself in that moment?
I think he's incredibly broken and can't receive love.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was more of on the surface, it's about protecting himself, from being taken advantage of. But I think he really is putting up walls around himself and keeping himself from being loved by a genuine friend. And Mark brought that up at the end, too. So I think it really is something internal, something deep that goes beyond finances,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, same. I think that he did consider him as a friend, but to protect himself, that he just pushed him away.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Do you think that Mark did the right thing handling it by just getting them together to just kind of talk it out, or do you think it should have been worked out in court? And do you think that he ended up giving him a break at the end, saying he wasn't going to go to the federal government, but do you think he should have put his foot down and taken it the way it was supposed to go? That makes sense.
I didn't know that they could do that in terms of like bringing two people who are going against each other in court and just talking it out.
Mediating, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that could be really dangerous, and that's the point of court. Like you brought a person to court.
Yeah.
So that was weird. But I think in terms of like this guy being disabled, he's obviously afraid of being used. I don't think that I probably wouldn't have taken it to the federal government because what are they going to do? Take more money and going to jail a disabled guy? I don't want to be that person.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mediation, I think it's cool that they brought that up because mediation is one of the alternatives to going to court. And I think that this was a situation that Mark is pretty wise, and I think this is a situation that showed that. He realized, at the end of the day, this is really about two friends and one person, like I said earlier, can't receive the love of the other. And I thought it was really wise and really caring of him to say, you know what, instead of going to trial, let's just do a mediation.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's what you need.
I feel like a lot of situations that, end up going to court could just be solved if two people just sat down and had a mediator to resolve it. So.
I also think these lawyers care and have more time on their hands than the average lawyer. Because I don't know if the average lawyer can dig into a case enough to that degree to say, hey, you guys are just really friends and you really just need a mediation. I don't think the average lawyer can do that.
Talk it out, guys.
Talk it out.
That's funny. All right, so let's talk about, Luke is he's working for Mark now. What did you think of their dynamic? Like, at one point I was like, okay, Mark, bring it down on Luke. You being kind of snappy on him, but do you think that kind of helped him pull out stuff from Luke? Like, what did you think of how they are working together now?
I feel like Mark has taken this role of like, you're the little guy and I'm the big guy. And I feel like Luke doesn't necessarily need that. Like, I think he's a type of guy that shows up wherever. Like, he was giving Emily sound advice, or when he's in the courtroom with Lola, like, he's taking notes. So I don't think he needs Mark to be that hard on him. But it seems like Mark is just taking that, like, you're the newbie on the block kind of role. And I guess there's, like, a vetting process to wanting to be a lawyer and just kind of having to go through that experience. But I don't think it's necessary.
Yeah.
I didn't think of it as him taking it out on Luke, per se. I thought that there were enough other things going on in Mark's life that Luke just happened to get the brunt of it, which is unfair. But I didn't think that it was about Luke. I thought it was really about Mark and him processing what he's going through. So that's how I perceived it. But it could just be some old-fashioned hazing, kind of haze the new kid on the block. But I didn't really take it that way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. So let's talk about, we're going to come back to Luke, but let's talk about Emily. She's representing a woman named Laura, who the case is really about them trying to get some records back, and her ex saying that she broke into the apartment that she's on the lease on and has the keys to, but somehow she broke into it. Yeah, somehow she broke into this apartment and tried to take his records. But it ends up becoming a whole story of, she's being abused by this man emotionally. He has been, threatening her and doing all these things to her, and that's why she left. Then in the midst of all of this case stuff, he sends nudes to her job and she ends up getting fired. To me, felt a little extreme for what the case was, me personally. But I know how abusers can just take a small thing and make it big. But what did you think about how that case kind of took them to that level of detail about her past, if that makes sense?
About Emily's past?
About Laura's past. Because it went from, I just wanted my records, to this man is abusing me, take me to the police. And it seemed like it went from like 0 to 100. And I really was trying to figure out, aside from him sending the nudes, what abusive tendencies he was doing.
I mean, I think, of course, the big tip off is when he got really angry in the courtroom and attempted to make some sort of threat. But I felt early on that she was somehow intimidated by him. And I think that, if I recall correctly, even Emily kind of alluded to that, like, are you know? So I think that, I think early on we saw signs that there was more to this story. Even the fact that she was afraid to get her records shows, okay, you guys may have ended on a bad note, but you shouldn't be afraid to go get that which is yours from the apartment. So I kind of had an idea pretty early on.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember in the courtroom she told Emily you shouldn't have done that. So that to me alluded that there was something going on there. But I have to, so is Emily going to be a confidant in all of her clients?
They all have so much time and so much commitment to their clients.
These aren't just lawyers. They're psychologists, they're social workers,
therapists, everyone.
I was thinking about last week's episode, and she went into the 16-year-old juvie story. Now then today's episode, and I'm like, wow, Emily, like, I guess you were really born for this job.
Apparently.
I was actually going to ask about that because, as you mentioned in the last episode, she basically turned it into how it was her story. So do you think that lawyers should kind of draw a line and kind of bringing their own story into it? Like, does that really matter in this situation when you're trying to represent someone?
I mean, I know it's important to want to connect to the person that you need to trust you, but gosh.
Yeah, I agree. I think that you want to establish some sort of relationship with your client, and you want them to feel like you have their back and you understand where they're coming from, even if you haven't been exactly in their shoes. But at the same time, there's a certain level that's kind of like, okay, are you overstepping your boundary? Is this becoming unethical? What other cases could you be working on with this time? I have no idea. But I mean, I appreciate the thought. I appreciate the love that each of them have for their clients. And Emily is so passionate about it. And, you know, at the end of the day, the young woman ended up going to the police. So it had some good come out of it.
Yep. One thing I really loved about this episode is how when Emily found out about him sending the nudes, that she stormed into that lawyer's office and put her foot down, and I just felt like it was a totally different side of Emily. Do you think that Emily has grown over the series, or do you think it was just a specific case because it resonated so much with her personal life that she had a different type of passion for it? Or could it be both?
I think it triggered her. I think it took her back to where she used to be, and she's so adamant about not being the victim and so adamant about standing up for herself that I think it was this specific case and this specific story in her life, because she wasn't like that with the 16-year-old or any of the other cases. I think this one just struck the right chord.
I think it was both, because I feel like Emily, like, when she's passionate about something, she's strategic, but I feel like she's also been trying to prove herself, and I feel like she's done that. So now when he sent the pictures and she stormed in, I feel like at that point she was more comfortable, because I feel like she's not constantly trying to have to prove herself, or, you know, she's working for basically pennies. So yeah.
Okay. Well, we saw a super awkward and cringy moment with her and Luke. He got a flash mob for her for Valentine's Day and got her a fish. Did y'all think it was sweet, or what did you think of it? Because honestly, I thought I was literally like cringing watching it. Like, I can't believe this man really did this.
I was overwhelmed for her. Like, I wasn't even there in the room, and I felt overwhelmed. So, I mean, I appreciate the gesture. It was just like, It was too much.
Yeah.
It's like all of this flash mob, and you get a pet fish.
At work, in front of my boss.
In front of your boss.
Yeah, you had my boss help do it. Like, that
Yes.
seems like a lot.
Yes.
Yeah, I think the dancing was a bit much, but I also feel like this is, well, I guess maybe I'm jumping ahead, but I feel like this is typical millennial man to like feed you these things or like make you feel special and then turn around and just do something that have you completely wondering what exactly is going on here.
Such a good
But she
point.
didn't wonder. We wondered. She didn't. She didn't bring it up, though.
Yeah. So basically, he did this whole big gesture for Valentine's Day, and then she goes to meet him at work, and he's with this other clerk who I also want to talk about. And he doesn't introduce her as his girlfriend. He says, "This is Emily," and it's kind of just left at that. So why do you think she didn't say anything? Why do you think he introduced her that way? Like, what are we thinking about that?
She's better than me.
I know. I don't understand why she didn't say anything. I couldn't have the conversation they had without addressing that first. Like, there is no Freckles the fish. We have to address what was that about.
Right.
So I was just like,
I feel like this show really wants to keep law at the center of everything and just like sprinkle a little lifestyle around. Because even back to Lola's gift, like why can't we dive deeper into people's lives? Like it's just because she immediately went back to the court case. It's like, I know that you are focused. However, you just borderline got disrespected.
Yeah.
Like even if she didn't check him right there, like you said, she never brought it up. So I think it's just kind of like the formatting of the show, unfortunately, because I want to know, like.
right, you can't just leave that lingering in the atmosphere.
Yeah.
And then another thing with her that I was kind of like, ugh, is she said that she didn't like the gesture that he did because she doesn't like gifts, because her ex-husband used to get her gifts when, basically after he would abuse her, he'd give her gifts. I mean, let me say why it made me feel away, because, like, and I've never been abused, thank God, but you being abused and then that's the reason you get gifts doesn't make up for the fact that it was just a really stupid Valentine's Day thing. Right. Like, it's not like he just bought you a gift and you're like, oh, it's uncomfortable for getting me a gift. You did a whole flash mob and bought me a fish. Like,
in front of her coworkers.
Right. That's kind of not the same thing. So I feel like she was kind of like deflecting off of what he really did by just throwing out anything. That's how I felt. But how did you guys
I want to
feel?
bring up a point that Princess made like episodes back, and I feel like this show has been doing a really good job at flashing, like spotlighting issues that are happening now, and I feel like going to therapy is something that, you're hearing a lot more ads about it, you're seeing a lot more of it, so I think this is a great time for them to send Emily to therapy, and we get to see the transformation, because for her to talk about the juvie experience, like I feel like she's finding therapy in her clients.
Yeah.
And I feel like at this point, we've touched all the bases from immigration to revenge porn. Go ahead and put her in therapy and let us experience that.
Yeah, I think she's acting out clearly. She acted out in this case, and Lola brought it up. And even the fact that she's having a hard time receiving love from Luke, even though issues aside, I think, again, she really should get therapy, because clearly there's some things that aren't healed yet, and there are some wounds that are still open. So I would love for Emily to explore that, as well as Mark.
Yeah.
And everyone needs a little bit of it, Yeah. So I hope that she does that, and hopefully Lola, I don't know if an intervention is necessary, but hopefully Lola can help start her in that path.
Yeah.
Because it's getting unhealthy.
And I mean, we did see her open up to Luke. This was the first time, at least that we've seen on the show, where she's told him something about her past and about her ex. So we see her opening up in that regard, but it's like, how are you giving him more when he gave you less? Like, he didn't claim you, and now you want to share your life story? Like, what?
I'm so confused.
But I still am trying to figure out really what's going on with the other clerk, because when Luke came in, she kind of gave him a funny look, and I was like, what is that look about? And then I was like, well, maybe she feels like he's going to be her competition, but then they started working together.
Completing each other's sentences.
Right, exactly. So it's like, is there going to be a situation, you think, where, Luke and the clerk are going to have a thing, or maybe the clerk likes him? Like, it's just, I feel like it can't be a coincidence that he didn't introduce her to the clerk as his girlfriend.
I think they set it up just like I think they kind of set it up with Lola and the guy that's helping Judge Benner.
Like they're just selling us a dream.
No, I don't think they're selling us a dream. I think they're similar to what they did with Mark and Amy. they gave us a setup early on. Mark was definitely in a relationship. But then down the line, we saw it come to fruition. So I think they are doing the same thing. They're just giving us the setup. It's early, but I think those things will come up again.
I think that as far as personality-wise, they haven't painted Luke as the type to leave Amy. Like, it seems like Emily, he's like really sowing his seeds there. So I think it could be a possibility he's gonna have to check this girl. Like, actually, I know I didn't mention her as my girlfriend, but that is, or just something like that. Because I don't think that him leaving Emily fits what they've been selling us, like 8 episodes, 10 episodes.
But I was surprised he didn't claim her, because he
Yeah.
was head over heels
We both
for 14 episodes.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know.
I guess we'll just have to wait and see. All right, let's get into our special segment, Weird Court Cases.
All right, so today's weird court case comes to us from the Associated Press back in 1996, and it's all the way from Tel Aviv, Israel. So a woman sued her local news station and its weatherman for $1,000 after he predicted a sunny day, but it actually turned out to be stormy. The woman claims the forecast led her to dress lightly, and because of that, she caught the flu, missed 4 days of work, and spent $38 on medication, and of course suffered stress as a result of all of this. In addition to compensation, she also wanted an apology from the weatherman. The case ended up being settled out of court, like we saw tonight, and she received her $1,000 and her apology.
Good.
Yes.
Well, at least I had a happy ending.
It did. It was interesting, because I was like, I don't know if... Has it really scientifically been proven that you underdressing causes you to catch the flu? But you know, they probably thought it's $1,000. Let's just move on.
Yep. Bigger fish to fry.
Exactly.
All right, let's get into some news and gossip.
AfterBuzz TV News.
All right, so on today's news and gossip, I don't know if you guys are paying attention to the All Rise social media, but that marketing team is working hard. They have a new segment called Fashion Fridays, and I think Lola is really well dressed. Everyone on this show is well dressed. Even Emily has got a new coin. So, so I actually am really interested in this. So her costume designer's name is Janelle Crothers, and I don't know if she made the dress, but I think they're alluding to pearls being the new diamonds, so maybe she hand-setted it or whatever she did. It looks really good, and she said a pair of court-appropriate heels, which I like that definition, because sometimes you're like, oh, is this too clubby? You know, what can I wear to work? What can I wear to work, especially in 2020? So I think that this new Fashion Friday is something that I'll be watching. And her Instagram is actually really interesting, too, and to know that, you know, there's so many moving parts on sets, and to see that costume design is actually doing this instead of wardrobe. You know, they didn't possibly buy the dress like this, so I'm really interested.
I love it. She always looks bomb.
Yeah, she does.
I was looking at her shoes in this episode. It had like a sparkler going down the hill or something.
know,
I hope they do it for Outfit of the Week, because it was really cute. All right, let's get into our predictions.
Your AfterBuzz TV predictions.
What are you thinking, Zuri?
I predict that Luke is going to have to check the clerk, because I think that she's going to maybe even call him out on stuttering about not claiming Emily. I agree with you that there's going to be some friction between Mark and Amy in terms of work. And I also think that Judge Benner is just going to say, I chose you for the job because I knew you were going to find the dirt, and I'm so proud.
I predict that the campaign guy that, like I brought up earlier, that Judge Benner is working with, and Lola. So I don't know if something's going to happen all the way, because Lola has so much integrity, but I do think it's going to cause her to really question things and really kind of ruffle some feathers. And I think the same thing with Luke's situation as well. I think at the end of the day, his heart's with Emily, but it might cause him to really have to just make sure that that's cemented and solid.
Yeah. Okay. I'm predicting actually some sort of clash with Luke and Mark. like Mark's gonna test him in some sort of way and he's not gonna like that, or they're gonna butt heads about a case. I just kind of see there being like a, not like a heated thing, but you know, kind of like how Sharon and Lola were in the beginning. They just kind of have to find their footing. Yeah, exactly. And I definitely think, you know, that Lola's gonna finally bring up to Judge Benner what she heard, and it probably is like you said, where I was just testing to see where your heart lies. I'm so proud. And then just even more cases to follow. So I'm excited to see what's happening next. All right, let's get on out of here. Zuri, let the world know where they can find you.
You guys can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Zuri Shalise.
You guys can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Princess CTV. I'm also on the Lock and Key After Show.
Woohoo! And you guys can follow me on social media at I am Lexi Fierce, IAMLEXIFIERCE, and subscribe to my YouTube channel, Talkin' TV with Lex. Until next time, we'll see you next week.
Our founder, Keven Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.